I should have known trouble the moment Lennox Rivera opened the door and said, "Are you the guy my dad hired to babysit me? Or did he order a replacement goldfish and you got lost in the mail?" 2 sentences in and I already regretted every decision that had led me to this suburban battlefield disguised as a mansion. I, Aiden Morales, had taken the job only because the pay was absurdly good and because Mr. Rivera, a man whose suits probably cost more than my car, had begged me to help him keep his son in line. Babysit him for a few months, help him get back to school, keep him out of trouble. Those were his exact words. Nothing in that perfectly polished office had hinted that his son would be a walking hurricane with sharp cheekbones and an attitude problem. The moment I stepped inside, Lennox looked me up and down as though deciding whether I was worth insulting further. He wore a black hoodie despite the California heat, tattoos curling like vines across his forearm. His eyes were a storm you couldn't predict. I hated the way I noticed that. I dropped my bag beside the couch. "I'm not your babysitter. I'm more like a mentor." He barked a laugh. "Right. So a babysitter with a fancy title. If sarcasm were currency, this kid would be a billionaire." Still, I couldn't quit. Rent didn't pay itself, and besides, something in the way he avoided eye contact when his father called from the hallway made me pause. He looked angry, yes, but also tired in a way most 19-year-olds shouldn't be. And that was the hook the universe needed to reel me into a mess I never asked for. Mr. Rivera barely acknowledged Lennox as he left for a flight. No goodbye, no wish you well, not even a nod. He just disappeared behind the closing door. Lennox flicked his gaze away, jaw tight. The moment the lock clicked, he muttered, "Finally." I should have said something comforting or at least something neutral. But no. My mouth betrayed me. Some kids would kill to have their dad around. He froze. For a second, all the bravado cracked. Then he turned sharply, voice low and icy. "Yeah, well, some dads don't want their kids around." The silence swallowed the room whole. That night, I found him outside on the patio, smoking and staring at the darkening sky. I wasn't supposed to care. I wasn't supposed to step closer. But something in the slump of his shoulders pulled me in like gravity. "Rough day?" I asked. He shot me a look. "You're not a therapist either." "True," I said, leaning against the railing beside him. "But I am someone standing next to you, which right now happens to be enough." He scoffed, but I caught the tiny flicker in his expression, the part of him that wanted someone to stay. Days passed, and the house settled into a rhythm. A strange one. He woke up late, argued with me about chores, threw shade like confetti, and yet sometimes would sit on the stairs eating cereal at midnight when he couldn't sleep. Sometimes he'd talk just a little, sometimes he'd listen. Sometimes would share a silence that felt too heavy and too warm to ignore. He laughed more than I expected, smirked at me in ways I tried very hard not to interpret. He was chaos and vulnerability mixed in a way that made my chest ache. It was past midnight when I found him sitting in the driveway, hoodie soaked from the light rain, eyes red though he swore he hadn't cried. He flinched when I knelt in front of him. "Hey, you're okay," I murmured, brushing wet hair from his forehead before I realized what I was doing. He didn't pull away. That scared me more than if he had shoved me off. "Everyone thinks I'm a screw-up," he whispered. "My dad, my teachers, every person in that stupid neighborhood." I looked at him, really looked. "You're not. You're just hurt. And you're trying way too hard to pretend you aren't." His breath trembled. I felt it more than heard it. "Aiden," he whispered, voice cracking in a way that punched straight through my ribs. "Why do you care?" "Because someone should." And there it was, the spark. Soft, dangerous, real. Something moved in his eyes, something I couldn't ignore anymore. And maybe I should have stepped back. Maybe I should have remembered the lines drawn between us. But standing in that quiet driveway under the soft patter of rain, with Lennox staring at me like I was the first person who had ever seen him, I felt the line blur. His gaze lingered on mine too long, too raw. I felt the moment shift, stretching between us like a thin thread ready to snap. He swallowed hard, then looked away, rubbing his palms against his soaked jeans. "Come inside," I said softly. "You're freezing." He didn't protest this time. Maybe he was too tired to keep up the walls, or maybe he wanted someone to guide him in for once instead of leaving him outside in the dark. Inside, the house felt too quiet, too clean, too big for two people who didn't quite know what to do with themselves. I handed him a towel, and he stared at it like he wasn't sure he deserved even that small kindness. "Thanks," he murmured. He changed into dry clothes and sank onto the couch, hair still damp and falling into his eyes. He seemed smaller than usual. His usual arrogance melted into something fragile and painfully honest. "Do you ever think things would be easier if you were someone else?" he asked it suddenly, staring at the ceiling, voice barely above a whisper. I sat beside him, careful not to get too close. "Sometimes, yeah. When life feels heavier than it should." He turned his head toward me, studying my face with those stormy eyes like he was searching for a crack. For proof I wasn't just pretending to understand. "It sucks," he said. "Not being enough for the people who are supposed to care." My chest tightened. "Lennox, that isn't on you. Isn't it?" His laugh was hollow. "If I were better, he wouldn't be ashamed of me." I wanted to tell him he was wrong, that he deserved love, patience, understanding, that none of this was his fault. But the words stuck in my throat because I suddenly realized something dangerous. I wanted to be the person who cared for him. Maybe too much. He shifted, looking at me again. "Why do you stay? Why haven't you left yet like everyone else?" "Because when I look at you, I see someone worth staying for." The confession slipped out before I could catch it. His breath caught. The air thickened. "Aiden," he whispered, like he wasn't sure if he should say my name or hold it like something breakable. Before anything could happen, before the moment could turn into something neither of us could take back, a phone buzzed on the table. He blinked, startled, and I exhaled a breath I didn't know I was holding. It was his dad. He stared at the screen, jaw tightening. He let it ring until it stopped. Then again, and again. He didn't move. "Pick it up," I urged gently. "No, Lennox." He pressed his palms to his eyes, shaking his head. "I can't deal with him acting like he cares for 5 minutes and disappearing for 5 months." I understood. Too well. "Come here," I whispered without thinking. And somehow, impossibly, he leaned into me, his head dropping against my shoulder, his breath trembling against my skin. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Days passed, and the shift between us didn't disappear like I expected. It grew. Quiet glances that lingered too long. Jokes that landed softer. Silences that felt loaded with things we weren't saying. One evening, while we were cooking together, terrible decision. Since we nearly burned the kitchen down, he stopped mid-sentence and looked at me like he'd just realized something huge. "You make it easy to breathe," he said. His voice was shaky. "And I don't know what to do with that." My heart slammed against my ribs. "Lennox." He stepped closer, and suddenly he was too near, his breath warm on my cheek, his eyes searching mine like he was trying to read a secret written there. "Do you want this too?" he whispered. I swallowed. I should have said no. Should have remembered the lines. Should have stepped back. But I didn't. "Yeah," I breathed. "I do." He closed the distance. The kiss wasn't perfect. It was shaky, hesitant, filled with uncertainty and longing and fear. But it was real. It was him. It was us. And it was enough to set my entire world on fire. When he pulled away, he laughed a little, breathless. "I'm sorry if that was stupid." It wasn't. It was overdue. He smiled. A real smile. One that softened him in ways I didn't know were possible. From that day, things changed. Not dramatically. Not in a movie montage way. But slowly. Gently. Like the beginning of something fragile learning how to breathe. He opened up more. I learned how to listen better. We messed up sometimes, argued sometimes, laughed a lot more. He tried harder with school. I tried harder to understand the things he never said aloud. And when Mr. Rivera finally came home, expecting chaos and destruction, he found us both at the dining table, Lennox doing homework while I helped him. He stared, stunned. "What happened to my son?" Lennox smirked. "I got a better babysitter, I guess." I kicked him under the table. He grinned, wide and unrestrained, and I felt something warm expand in my chest. Later, after his dad left the room, Lennox touched my hand under the table. Small, secret, certain. "I want this," he whispered, "not because I'm broken, Not because you're the only one here. I want this because it's you. And for once, I didn't question it. I squeezed his hand back. Then we'll figure it out. Together. His smile that day was the softest thing I'd ever seen. Outside, the California sun dipped low, casting the house in golden light, wrapping the moment in something that felt like hope. Taking care of my boss' rebellious son was never supposed to lead to love. But maybe the best things in life are the ones we never see coming. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.